Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. We've got a bit to talk about tonight. Bit of Formula One news has happened this afternoon. Lots happening. World Superbikes down at Phillip Island this weekend, and of course, news from supercars and a whole lot more. Joining us to have a chat about bit of a chat about the week and things in general. Joining us once again, we've got Peter Johnson, we've got Craig Doc Latigo, and we have Chris Ritchie alongside us as well. G'day, guys. How are we all?
Good evening, Brett. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good to see you all. I will just fire up some of this news for people as well. Yes, and the news at the bottom of the lead story is, of course, that it's official now. Mick Schumacher will not be at Haas for 2023. He has been replaced by Nico Hülkenberg. Now, the follow-up to this is that some media in Europe, particularly in Germany, are saying that Mick is going to end up in the reserved and test driver role for Mercedes, which, of course, would sort of clear the pitch for young Daniel Ricciardo quite a bit, who's increasingly looking likely to go back to either Red Bull or stay at McLaren as a reserve driver. So, Pete, what have you heard? What have you seen?
I haven't heard much, but it would make sense for him to stay at McLaren as a reserve driver, because I know that Oscar Piastri is getting a test drive at Abu Dhabi at the end of the season, but apart from that, he's untested, so it would make sense for him to stay there, just in case things don't work out as well as they should.
Mick doing it too for Alpine.
Yes, young Jack Doohan.
Jack Doohan's doing a test for Alpine just because Pete brought up the testing. That was all.
Yeah. So Jack's doing that. It would make sense because it's funny that in both cases you've got not only the team from Zach Brown and everyone from McLaren, but also now Helmut Marko's come out and said, yes, we'd be quite delighted to have Daniel back, actually, because they're running short of. They've got plenty of young drivers coming through, but once again, they don't have a lot of experience, and that's what everybody's looking for, is somebody who's experienced and has recent Formula One experience, and you couldn't get any more recent Formula One experience than both Daniel Ricciardo and, of course, Mick Schumacher. But Schumacher's only had the short time in, why it wasn't successful at all. It's good to see Nico Hülkenberg back. Interesting thing is, what happens with Schumacher now? I mean, does his career sort of stall? I mean, is he going to be sort of a curiosity in the history of Formula One that he briefly had his go and then never showed up again? Or do you think he can come back from this season? And do you think he'll get another drive at some stage?
I'm not sure, because if you look, Fernando Alonso, and both Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso started at Minardi when they were minnows, and then they worked their way up. So I wonder if he'll be able to go back down the ladder and then back up again. I wonder, yeah.
You'd wonder also with the association. You could see the appeal for Mercedes to have the name Schumacher sort of back in the fold again. The romance of a second generation Schumacher once again racing for Mercedes would obviously be very good for them as well. But at the moment, he wasn't the worst driver in the world. I think what has really messed him up has been the lack of consistency. That on his days he was very competitive and and could be quite good. But then there were other days when he was like last weekend, for instance, when he was simply just off the pace completely and was not giving Haas the backup points to Magnussen that they really wanted. They'll be hoping now that they've got a couple of experienced drivers. And if you have a look at that driver lineup, I mean, Magnussen and Hülkenberg, that to me sounds like a pretty good lineup in terms of reliability and consistency. I mean, they could improve things considerably for Haas next year.
And I would have thought when Daniel Ricciardo was supposedly in the mix, I would have thought he would have been a good fit at Haas, because if you look, Magnussen's of the same vintage, and Magnussen was often getting the Haas in the points, and so
Well,
yeah,
I think Gudasina was very keen on Daniel. It was more that it was Daniel who wasn't keen on Haas. I mean, Gunnar was, like obviously, I think it was the fight was between Daniel and Nico, and I think that if Daniel had to put his hand up because of just his more recent experience, he might have got the gig. But he basically said that he wasn't interested in. He saw sort of driving for Haas, even if it meant staying in Formula One as a bit of a sort of demotion. And I think that he probably, I hope that he hasn't made the wrong decision then there because. Haas, they're not the worst team in the world, and they've got a bit of support behind them. It's interesting, to see that what's happened today in terms of Schumacher going up. Gudasina said, there you go. That he was. I would like to thank Mick Schumacher for his contribution. I didn't stay up very long. I only put that up quickly. I didn't stay up long enough. Basically said he wanted to thank Mick for his contribution. That he was, and it really was that lack of consistency. And we wish you luck with your future endeavours and all the usual stuff that they say. But he's very keen. He was very keen to get another experienced driver in alongside of Magnussen. And that would make sense now, and I think that they'll be in a better position now, certainly in terms of consistency and reliability. Let's have a look at some of our comments. We've got Mad Cow Mark is joining us once again. G'day, Mark. How are you? And also we've got SB. Good evening. Tony P is with us again. Apparently with not just the A team, it's the Super A team. I'm not sure what the A stands for. I shudder to think, but anyway, thanks for that, Mark. Okay, so anyways, so that's the situation. That's the situation in Formula One, and of course the other situation in Formula One, the Max Verstappen versus Sergio Perez argument. Sergio says it's over and done with. We've broken bread, and it's all sorted out, and we're moving on to next week, and we're concentrating on getting that second position in the championship. But
I'll believe it when I see it.
I wonder if now, in light of sort of what's happened, whether sort of Max would have a look at it, or all of the publicity and everything that's been said about it, and thought, oh, gee, I probably made the wrong decision there. Perhaps I should have stood aside, because he seemed like fairly a petulant child. Apparently, the backstory on that, according to a lot of reports, was from Monaco earlier in the year, when Sergio was on pole position in qualifying and then had a crash which stopped Max from getting that pole position. And they say that Max was very angry at that. He believed, and some people believed, and Max clearly is among them, that he thought that Sergio had deliberately crashed in order to stop Max from setting a fastest time and taking that pole position away at Monaco. So that's apparently what people are saying was the reason why. If it was a very petulant little act, but not particularly surprising either.
But after that race, Sergio has often seceded to team orders, so I don't think it's that. He's often, and with compliant, he's been very compliant with seceding to team orders. So,
well, he was on the weekend. I mean, and on the deal it was like, move aside, let Max through. If Max can chase down the Mercedes and then the Ferraris, and that's fine. If not, he will swap the places back again, which we saw Hamilton do at one stage. Remember, I forget the race, but there was a race that Hamilton was in that situation. They said, let him through, and if he can get on the tail, if he can't, he'll slow down and he'll swap the places back. It's happened a few times over the years, and especially when you consider that Sergio's currently in second place in the championship, you'd reckon that he was. You'd think that that would be the focus. I mean, Max has already wrapped up the title, and you'd think that his focus now would be on trying to get his teammate up and into a comfortable second position. Now, as it stands, they're going into this weekend with locked together on points, and it's probably a bit more stressful than it needs to be. Although, I still think that Sergio would have to be the red hot favourite to get that second place now, because especially in light of Ferrari's recent form, they seem to have hit a brick wall over there, and it seems to be of their own making. I mean, they stuffed up again in the pit stops on the weekend with putting wrong tyres on and bringing in people at the wrong time, and it's been an absolute mess at that team. So,
like I keep saying, that they're making decisions by committee, and you never get anything done in the committee.
yeah, well, that's very true. They used to say that about Honda as well in MotoGP, that it was only when sort of Jeremy Burgess got involved at one stage, and they just were in the days of Mick Doohan, when he just went in there and said, "I don't care what I make the decisions. I'm in charge, and the rest of you will shut up and basically do as you're told." And then things started happening. But I think, and that was John Tott was the same when he was at Ferrari. He was a very firm leader, and he just said, we're not going to have these arguments. We're not going to have discussions on this. I will make the decisions, and and you will basically, we live and die by the strength of those decisions. But at the moment, it seems to have gone back to the old days where everybody's arguing amongst themselves, and the leadership at the team level is not particularly strong at the moment. Wouldn't surprise me if there's some pretty big changes happen over the off season at Ferrari. I would imagine that they will have a look. They'll have the post-mortem of the year and say, God, we probably pissed that one up against the wall. I mean, Charles was so competitive. He was leading the championship, and then it all went to hell in a handbag, and we really stuffed it up. And as the pressure piled up on them, as Max and Red Bull put the pressure on them, they wilted badly. And now it looks like Mercedes has leapfrogged them. So anyway, interesting thing. Paul Van Den Ackers from Maryborough, the Energy Breakthrough School event. We covered that many years ago. It used to be. For a while, there was one down at Wonthaggi that we covered, a 24-hour one. That's the human-powered. It's sort of like Formula SAE for high schools, but with human power. And if you're anywhere near there, it was a great day. It was really some interesting stuff. It had that sort of vibe that Formula SAE has, of lots of young people getting involved, lots of great ideas and lots of enthusiasm, and it's a terrific event. So. Yeah, so anyway, so that's at Maryborough, this coming up this weekend. Also, just remember, tomorrow night, it's looking like it's going to be fine. Drag racing out at Calder Park. I'm going out there tomorrow. We'll have some news of that on next week's program, because I'm going to have to wave the camera around, have a look and see what the situation is out at Calder, because the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship made the surprise announcement that they are hoping, they have a tentative date for a sixth round of the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship next year at Calder Park, subject to a track permit being granted by Motorsport Australia. Sort of been beaten up by in some of the media, as this is. Motorsport Australia are not happy, and people in the state series are not happy, and that I can't see any sort of proof of that at all. I mean, all Paul Reardon from Motorsport Australia was saying was, at this stage, there is no permit, so they can't have a round at Calder Park because they don't have a permit. If by the time they get to that point of the year they do have a permit, which I think is probably unlikely, but anyway, if they do have a permit, then they'll race there, and it won't be any big deal. So, anyway, as there. Box is with us again. Box. Late arrival. I know the feeling, Box. As I said, I'm still having trouble with this early start myself. Actually, SB saying fingers crossed for Calder. It would be good to have Calder back. It really would be. I mean, it was. I'd just love to see them go back to the short circuit. I reckon the racing on the short circuit was way better than it ever turned out on that longer circuit. The straights were just too long, and basically, if you had a nice powerful V8, you just ran away and hid. Whereas on the original circuit, there was some fantastic racing, because you'd have the V8s would be blast away down the main straight, and then round the twisty bits, all of the smaller cars would catch up again. And there was some terrific racing over the years, but anyway, so yes, with their interesting. Tim Macro has announced, multiple Australian champion, has announced that he's retiring from driving next year. So his race on the streets of Adelaide in S5000 will be his last behind the wheel, apparently. And next year he's talking about having two cars in S5000. So hopefully that will come up because S5000 needs all the extra cars it can get. But anyway, did anyone see? Anyone have a look at James Golding's run around Bathurst in the S5000?
I didn't watch it, but I did see he had a run around in a very sprightly time.
Well, what was impressive about that was the conditions were far from perfect, and yeah, he set a quick time. Now, there's an argument about, is it a lap record? Is it because it didn't happen obviously during a race? So yeah, personally, I whatever the regulations seem to indicate. Some people are saying the regulations were changed, and the record does stand and is official. I still think that a lap record should only be set in a proper race. Sending out one car by itself to do a fast lap isn't really indicative of.
That's putting everybody else up against it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's much easier to go out there when you're the only car out on the track. Exactly. You don't have to worry. There's no compromises. I mean, you get out there and you can take the lines you want, and you can run to your own pace. Whereas obviously in a race, if you're setting that time in a race, you've got to deal with other cars out there, and then it means something. But I think to go out with just one car by itself, I don't think that's really fair. But. Yeah. Anyway, as SB's saying, fingers crossed for Calder. Yes, I eventually caught up with Peter Pizzolidis from Calder Park Drag Racing this afternoon. There's still some confusion over there as to what exactly is happening. As Pete said today, in terms of the drag race, all they're trying to do at the moment is just to get some consistent running on that track to basically let people know that it's out there. It's it's not the place isn't closed. It's not closing. But in terms of like a major event with competition cars, no decision seems to have been made as yet. I mean, but the thing is, Fast Friday is back at the moment. There is one tomorrow. There'll be others, and there'll be some racing on Sundays as well. All off-street stuff at the moment. Apparently last week was a really good turnout, and the weather for tomorrow night is looking pretty reasonable as well. So that's why I said I'm going to just sort of pop out there and have a look and wave the camera around, just get some new stuff, get a vibe for the place, and see what's happening out there. But anyway, as Mark's saying, might want to clean up the oval track side of the car, but it does look like a tip. That's basically because it is a tip. I mean, if you go out the back of the circuit anywhere, I mean, it really there's old NASCAR and OzCar bodies. There's old bits of of Warwick Farm Raceway and all sorts of things. If you wander around the place, there's all sorts of strange and wonderful things out the back and hidden behind the banks of the Thunderdome. So there's a lot of work to be done there. I did try to contact Rowan Harmon. Apparently has been put in charge of running the place now. Rowan, of course, was associated for many years with Touring Car Masters. Former competitor, also a journalist, had a show with Dave Morley on 3AW for many, many years, a motoring show. He's been put in charge of Calder Park, and I've tried to get in contact with him on a couple of occasions over the past couple of days to try and get him on and talk about the situation, but I haven't been able to contact him, unfortunately. And we'll see what happens. But I think it's a good sign. I mean, the thing that you'll say about Rowan, he'll be enthusiastic. It's he's probably got the enthusiasm that Rodney might at times lack in terms of getting that place up and running. I think he'd be very keen to get it up and running. But as I said last week, as far as I think they should just concentrate on getting the drag racing running there and getting the drag racing running properly. That's the thing that'll bring in the crowds. That's the thing that will bring in big entries. I mean, why would you want to compromise the drag racing that you can run pretty much every week, and for major events get 15,000, 20,000 people through the gates, in order to make the track suitable for a round of the Victorian State Series, where you'll basically have friends and family. So I don't know. Anyway, that's that. Anything else coming up? Those Bathurst 12 hours. The camping went on sale yesterday, and particularly in the paddock area, is virtually sold out already. It's just the positions are going really quick. That's a great sign. Great sign for Bathurst for the 12 hours. So that's good. What's happening there? And of course, Doc, we've got World Superbikes down at Phillip Island this weekend.
Yes, Mr. Razgatlioglu, who almost tried to tongue twist me on tonight's show, but Pete's having a laugh because he was loading it up for me, and he's had to put up with my voice characterizations a few times. Thanks, Pete. But yeah, lots of fun. Jonathan Ray's in third place behind Mr. Razgatlioglu. And, Alvaro Bautista's already sewn it up for the year. So, look, just like the old cliche, they'll all go down there and have some fun. Hopefully no one bins it. And, the conditions could be tedious tomorrow. They'll get better on the weekend, and hopefully don't get any rain on Sunday. That really puts a dampener on those slick tyres. So, I wish I was going down myself, but I've got a wedding over the other side of the bridge. And... her birthday. Otherwise, I'd grab the Ninja myself and head down there. So, but looks really good. Highly recommend it. Any ride to Phillip Island on two wheels is a great ride these days. Track's not too bad. I went down to, I think I shared with Brett last weekend. I went down to Wonthaggi, so I went all the way down as far as the turn off at the roundabout, a little bit further than the bypass, and off to Wonthaggi, and everything's holding up really well. So, drop into Kilcunda, support your local businesses down there. It's really a down-to-earth event, especially at World Superbikes. Probably the biggest draw card has always been that you can ride the bike down, you ride the bike onto the track, you park it next to the fence, you can walk around. And so access all areas to a certain extent compared to MotoGP, where certain parts of the circuit and paddock are a little bit difficult to access, get there too. But always, I'm not sure much news has been spread about parking there. But look, it's not too big on the parking scene. Most people don't park in the car park there on their bike. As I said, they take it onto the track. And to watch those bikes, they're just a smidgen off the prototypes of MotoGP. They are an absolute awesome. Sometimes you even get better racing in the World Superbikes because without going through any wind tunnels or parity, they go out there and there'll be 5 or 6 of them scrapping it up, and it comes down to tyres at the end of it, who saves it the most or who made a decision on medium, soft or hard at the start of the race, back or front. But yeah, it's great. It's great. It's an awesome day, and it'll be it's the last off the card this season, and preliminary in sorts, it is the first. They've released a preliminary calendar for next year, and it'll be back to top of the pops in probably late February, early March on when the World Superbikes will kick off the world stage again. So it's probably
I think late February is the plan at the moment to start off once again at Phillip Island. They're keen to do that.
It's the week before the Avalon Air Show, the biannual air show down there at Avalon. Another bit of news. Brett and I sent him a screenshot earlier. He hasn't had much time to upload it, but I did send it the last minute to the guys on Full Course Yellow. Is that, there you go. Brett has managed to drag it up. I was trying to do it. That's why I was looking sideways while we were talking Formula One there for a minute. I'm still working at StreamYard. But John McGuinness there is the gentleman behind there in those Honda colours, and he's standing in front of something that was released only in the last 24 hours, a big show over in the UK. That is a Honda Fireblade Double R in John McGuinness tribute colours. So it's a bit of a combination of all his stuff. It's brand new livery, and there are only going to be 30 of them made. So it will be road legal, and it will have a price tag of 30,000. I think it was pounds, not euros. But to be only 30 made, I'm sure there'll be some sort of plaque on it and all the graphics, and it'll be the top of the pop. So that's what's on my dear Santa list. One Fireblade, please. I don't think that'll fit down the chimney, but it'll certainly make some smoke in more ways than one and look absolutely crazily drawing attention down the street or going on the track over in the UK. That's if anyone buys one outside the country. Fingers crossed someone could bring one to Australia.
Is that due to become the most stolen motorcycle in the UK?
I imagine there'd be more than a clamp on an alarm on it. So I think it. Like a few of the very rare Ducatis that are going around these days and ever increasing, and the Triumphs and the old school stuff. Yeah, people are getting smarter with their things. They're putting GPSs on them so they can chase them down the road and obviously see them running away on a truck and hopefully retrieve them before there's any more damage. But yeah, I don't like your chances, Chris. But people will be, sleeping with them. A lot of people leave them in houses these days for extra security as well. They don't even put them in the garages anymore.
Yeah, well, that's happening this weekend. World Superbikes down at Phillip Island, and as Doc said, it is always a far friendlier and far more relaxed. Certainly, in my experience in the past, than MotoGP is. Had some good times down at Superbikes before. That's admittedly before Dorna got involved. I mean, we used to be able to go down there and film down there, and they were very welcoming. Had some great experiences down at the Superbikes with a lot of the guys. Down there, they were always very friendly. Great weekend. So if you're looking for something to do this weekend and you haven't been down to see the World Superbikes, it's probably a chance. It'll be a bit of a party atmosphere too. I mean, Alvaro Bautista is already saying that he's got nothing to lose now. He's cinched up the title. He's more than happy. He's just going to get out there. He loves the track. He just wants to go. He just wants to really celebrate with a win. And of course, people like Johnny Ray and also Razgatlioglu will be very keen to just basically start off. I think Razgatlioglu said this is actually we're seeing this as the first round of next year in terms of what we want to do. We can throw some things at the bikes. We can try some. There's basically nothing to lose now. So we're just going to get out there. We're all going to have fun, and we're all just going to race and go for it.
Just one last thing as well too to add. World Superbikes might get a little bit more interest and might be a resurgence now. Obviously, with Suzuki pulling out of MotoGP, World Superbikes, the manufacturers heavily support the World Superbikes more than they actually do, strangely enough, MotoGP, because the bikes are standard. They basically, other than a few upgrades on rotors and pads and stuff like that, they have to be homologated and obviously mass-produced bikes. So that's the closest thing you can actually go watch it on a Sunday in any country in the world, and then go to a dealership on a Monday and buy one for yourself. Real. Speaking
of Suzuki, did you see the thing that they're going to take their MotoGP bikes and all of the equipment, and they're going to destroy it. They're going to put one or two into a museum somewhere, I'm just going to leave this out. Sorry, I'm upset. Yeah, because apparently, there's a law in Japan that basically says that they're taken. Those machines are taken as assets, and if they hang on to those assets, even if they're not using them, if they hang on to any of those assets, they've got to pay tax on them. If they get a tax break if they destroy them. So so they've sort of said yes, we're gonna take those bikes and we're gonna put them into the crusher and we're gonna chop them up. So it seems really funny. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on behind, because if you have a look at the statement, the Suzuki, the way they're talking is like it's almost like we're not just out of MotoGP. We hate we're not having anything to do with MotoGP. There are no plans to return. We will never return. They're really firm on it. So I don't know what got their nose out of joint with MotoGP, but
there's a rock.
Yeah, they were really saying that we are finished with it. It's gone. That's it. MotoGP is not on our agenda anymore. So so they're a crime against most, but just a waste. I mean, but
Triple B,
silly.
Yeah,
it's really silly.
For the small amount of tax you're going to pay on a couple of bikes sitting in a showroom, guaranteed 99% of the world, including themselves, will regret it in 10, 20, 30 years' time when they want to have a look at their collection and say, that bike was only 2 years after we won a world championship and it won the last race it competed in at the highest level in the world.
I think that's the go. I think they've basically said that Rins, the bike that won, will be put into the museum, and basically everything else will be destroyed. So that's the story I read anyway.
Crime against
anyway,
doesn't it?
It's just crazy, just crazy. Peter McKinnon saying the Bathurst International was a good event. Shame it was only on Stan. It was on Saturday. It was on Channel 9 as well, on 9 online on 9 Gem. I think it's there, but it's hard to keep track of 9. Why it's on 9 Gem. 9 Gem was they called it Gem originally because that was, quote, the women's station. And then they've got
a movie station too. It's always
a movie station. Yeah, I mean, there's no sort of there's no proper planning in terms of, you would expect it to be on their sort of their equivalent of 7 Mate. So, but it wasn't. It was on Gem apparently. So you'd be hard pressed to find it, and it was only on the Saturday. And then, of course, as Peter said, it was on Stan, and I got the I mean, if you were, especially at this time of year, why would you be paying the $25 to get Stan? Because that's the problem. You can't just get Stan Sport. You've got to get Stan, and then you add Stan Sport. Well, there's nothing I want to see on Stan, and there's, apart from that race on the weekend, there's now nothing at all that I want to see on Stan Sport, because all they have on the thing is rugby.
It's a threefold disappointment, because you've got to get Stan, then you've got to get Stan Sport, and then you don't get In Pit Lane, which people were disappointed about as well too.
Yes, what happened to Pit Lane? It looks like another one we've outlasted.
No, I said they expected us. They wanted us. They wanted Pete, Chris, you, myself. I mean, they wanted In Pit Lane. They were all excited. They were going to get In Pit Lane on a and we said, I'm sorry, but it's not us. I don't know what's happened. So no, it's quietly dug its own grave. I think 7 feet.
Yeah, it's sort of disappeared. I think there's been 3 episodes, and then it sort of quietly disappeared, and I haven't seen any mention of it again. I don't know. It might be still there. They've just stopped talking about it online. But as far as I know, and looking at the TV guides that I've been able to find, it's pretty hard to get any information at all out of Stan. But as far as I've seen, at least for the moment, the pit lane is closed. So
an extended decade break. Anyway,
is that the us pit lane or the other?
That's the other pit lane. That's the other pit lane. Right. So they seem to have.
They're under safety car, and so pit lane's closed.
Yes. But anyway, I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what happened there.
They've been brown flagged, I heard. Yeah.
So, but anyway, in terms of that, I mean, we've got 2 shows now. Remember, 9:30 tonight on In Pit Lane. We've got our special guest is Eugenia Rocker. If you're watching on channel 31, you'll notice shows a bit different. Was a bit chaotic because we sort of threw the format out the window because we wanted to get as much time with Eugene as possible.
And even then, it was. No jokes.
Well, we tried to be. Unfortunately, it's one of those things, and I know that at the end of it, there'll be people going, but you didn't ask him about this, and you didn't ask him about that, and
we've got 24 minutes.
Well, I mean, when you take out we've got basically, I actually added it up. We had 18 minutes, and you don't have time to ask everything. And I tried to ask.
What did I say to you as we were leaving the studio? What was the exact words I said to you, Brett, when we called time? I said we needed an hour, and you said, yeah, we could have easily had an hour with it as well. So,
well, that's the thing. There are certain shows where, where 24 minutes is more than enough. Thank you very much. But there are others, when, like you think, God, if only we had another sort of half hour to play with. I mean, like, as I keep saying, the famous one was Alfredo Costanzo. He was telling such wonderful stories, and it was painful to have to say, I'm sorry, we've just run out of time, because he was on a roll and he was fantastic. And there's people like that you get all the time. But anyway, Eugene Rocca came on. I think there's some stuff there's some interesting stuff will come out tonight. Some stuff particularly about the Grand Prix, and particularly about the New South Wales government. That might get raise a few eyebrows, but yes, but that's on tonight anyway. 9:30, Channel 31.
He kept that. He kept the Calder Park announcement under his hat. He must have had an inkling of what was going on.
No, I would. No. This is the point. Nobody at CAMS or with Motorsport Australia. That was the thing. That was the trouble I had all night. Was not saying CAMS. I kept saying. I just.
We're just used to the Confederation. That's all that we are. We grew up with it.
But anyway, he wouldn't have known at that level that wouldn't be, that'd be well out of his purview. It was, and as I said, all they've made the announcement is that they've obviously made a tentative booking, and if
based
they
on
get
Motorsport review though, Motorsport Australia review is still in house.
Well, it's still in out, but there's going to be an awful lot that they're going to have to do to that track in order to get it. Now, at the moment, they're sort of, and Rowan, it's interesting that Rowan Harmon also, with his his international race, with his IROC series for Porsches that he was running, has quite a connection with AASA as well. And Calder Park has already said, we will run circuit events. We would like to run Motorsport Australia events if we can get a permit. If we can't get a permit from them, and we can get a permit from AASA, and they've said we know what we need to do to get the permit from AASA. There's a few things that we need to do that are not perhaps as arduous as Motorsport Australia's requirements. If they can do that, they'll open up again, and there will be regular, club level and sort of lower level racing, including things like perhaps even the Australian Motor Racing Series, which is there. Peter, just quickly before, because there's a specific question here from Peter. Can you watch the show on Channel 31? You can watch us on the YouTube channel, the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. If you're watching us on Facebook right now, go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, and as soon as we finish here on Full Course Yellow, this week's show, and if you watch on the YouTube channel, you get the extended show, which is has some bonus content, bonus songs from the band as well. So and tonight you'll get the news as well. So if you are after the news, there's no news on Channel 31, but there is a news section including all the stuff from Bathurst on the weekend, interviews, some that most of you have seen already, but most with Marcello from TCR International, talking about the TCR World Tour and what they're doing there. Also, we hear from the new TCR champion, Tony D'Alberto. So he's on the news, and we also wrap up NHRA. There's World Endurance Championship. All of those things on the news tonight, but that's exclusively on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel from 9:30. And then you can watch that on demand.
Yeah, just as heads up as well, though, Peter Mac, thanks for the question. But Brett also, we do a unedited version on Tuesday nights each week. This week was a special edition with Eugenio Rocca, so Brett's been saving in the can all the way until tonight, so you couldn't watch. But if you do tune into Facebook, usually without any technological glitches, you can watch the unedited version of the show when we tape it live in the RMI TV studios in Grand Prix City, Melbourne, on Tuesday night. So. I think the problem we have.
Yeah, I would just say the Facebook. I even had trouble with Full Course Yellow tonight in terms of Facebook has become really, really difficult for video. It's always been a bad platform for video. It's got much worse now. It things keep happening. Sometimes things get taken off for no apparent reason. Sometimes you can't sort of set things. That's why I had today. I had about 5 tries to get up, and it was just your program has not been accepted. And it's like, well, we haven't even done it yet.
Well,
what do you mean it's not been accepted?
That's because you keep putting swear words on and nudie women on your guitar, Brett. That's why. Every week you do it. This has just got. This is out.
Yes, our band tonight causes a few problems because the bass player had an interestingly decorated guitar. Yes, had a few words on it that were perhaps not suitable for PG consumption, and the naked lady. We sort of had to make the decision not to have any close-ups of the bass player because otherwise it was very obvious that he had the hentai naked lady
anyway,
on there. So
we are after 9:30 on live to air tonight, so that passes the pub test.
Yeah, that's it. So, now coming up this week on the program, coming down at Phillip Island, there is a Come and Try Motorsport Day. A lot of people sort of want to say, how do we get involved in motorsport?
I get it preached to me every year to go down there because I'm involved with a couple of car clubs, and one of my car clubs involved, and I have a couple of instructors within my car club, and I would love to put them on air right now so they could highly recommend it because they tell me the same stuff every year to go and do it. Put on your helmet, take your car down, and we'll sit beside you. You go over the rest, Brett.
Yeah, so that's coming up. Bruce Asprey got in touch today. I had one of those days. I put up you probably saw the post. If you're on the Facebook page, you probably saw the post. I really did get up this morning, and I just had I was not going to sit. I spent most of yesterday, apart from sort of cleaning up sort of some of the mess from the from the nights before, from the taping from the night before, to get a show up on Channel 31 that looked remotely halfway decent, but. We had a few technical problems here and there,
what about the response? Wonderful people. Like I look at the fans were just absolutely throwing everything at you. How great was that, Brett?
Well, the good news is that Bruce Asprey from the Come and Try Day did get in touch and said that we'd love to come on and talk about it to get people involved. So we did that. Now somebody also that's our second last show. Our last show of the year, a name that is very well known in the Victorian State Series. He's been on many times over the years. He's basically an honorary crew member. The cast member of the program, and he's a larger-than-life character all the way back from making a very rare return to Australia, the one and only, the snake charmer, the man himself, gorgeous George Vidovic, is going to join us for our last program of the year. And if you know George at all, you'll know that it's guaranteed to be an entertaining program because he's got so many wonderful stories. He's been working, just basically working his way, living the dream, racing all over America with his Python, and now he's bought a vintage Can-Am McLaren as well, which he's also running. So we'll find out. We will find out about that. We'll find out about all of his wonderful stories, at least the ones he can tell us, and that'll be on the last edition of In Pit Lane. Well, when I say last edition, Channel 31 would like us to do a summer series, and I haven't decided yet because really we do need a break, but. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't made the decision yet.
We need some sleep, don't we, guys? That's what we actually need in the middle of the week.
Yes, we need some sleep. Just speaking on the TCR thing, as Peter was saying, it was on stand, so that does affect things. It's interesting. There's been the crowd, or the total lack of crowd, was very much noticed. There was nobody there. I mean, if you wanted to have a quiet go to Bathurst for a quiet sort of weekend, and
and lots of breaks in between racing. You did say quiet, Brett. There was apparently some very quiet spots where you could just sit there and read your book for a while. Apparently.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, and that's why they've got involved now. The ARG have got involved now with the Australian Production Car Championship. We had Troy Williams on the program earlier this season to talk about the APC. Well, now ARG have joined with them, and the interesting thing is they're opening the series up to GT4 cars. And I've been really surprised that GT4 hasn't taken off in Australia. I think we've discussed it with Dave Stillwell on the show a few times, because they are the affordable entry into international sports car racing. And if you want to win your class at the Bathurst 12 Hour, it's a great opportunity. If you had the money, go out and buy a halfway decent modern GT4 car. Chances are you're going to get a podium, because I think there was only one car or two cars there last year. Not sure how many are going to start this year, but yeah, there is a GT4 class, but still at the Bathurst 12 Hour, and you've probably got a chance of winning it. But that's going to be interesting. The touring car world tour, they're talking about possibly as many as 30 to 35 cars starting, which would be the Australian, the cars we've got running in Australia at the moment. Plus, the deal is factories are going to sort of nominate teams as well. So they're thinking we're going to get two from Honda, two from Hyundai, possibly two. The interesting thing is Toyota have basically committed now. They've homologated the car, or they're in the process of homologating the Corolla for TCR Racing, and they've already said that Australia will be one of the markets that they will be getting involved in. So Toyota, they've been saying, Toyota to supercars. Then they've not been even remotely interested. Well, apparently they are interested, at least to sell cars to people in Australia in TCR. So we'll have possibly the Toyotas will be there. Lynk & Co. From China, they will have a couple of cars there as well. So that will be a good thing next year.
Not just that, Brett. Usually when that happens, because it can coincide, you can usually take away the technology or even the whole car to a certain extent. When someone opens the door like that, for example, a different thing category named TCR, watch the Corollas start get rallying as well though too. So Toyota will have another resurgence. People will say, oh, why don't we throw a Corolla around a dirt track and see how well this performs? And
the interesting thing that I've said about the interesting thing about TCR is pretty much almost everybody's got a dog in that fight. Pretty much every manufacturer still has a small 2-litre car. So they can sell the cars. You can still, even though they are heavily modified, they are based on they're very much based on the road going version, and you can race on Sunday, sell on Monday, because if you want to buy a 130N Hyundai or a Type R Honda Civic or the Toyota Corolla or any of those things, you can actually go into in India showroom on Monday and buy the bloody thing.
Just a quick
1600.
So yeah, exactly. Oh, that's what I mean. The 1600, the 200Bs, 180Bs in the Dados, that sort of stuff.
It's interesting. Nissan have shown, one of the companies that have shown, they're one of the few companies that have had no interest in TCR at all, and it seems like Nissan now the only motorsport they're mainly interested in is Super GT with the and also GT4. But that's one thing. I mean, the Nissan Z. There's a GT, a factory produced GT version of the GT4 in the Z. So that'll run as well up at Bathurst. So they're
concentrating on the big turbo 6s with the Skylines and the GT4 stuff and the Zs. They're sort of doing that. And look, I mean, once the dust settles, you never know, they might have a renewed interest if something starts with TCR. So it only takes obviously someone to spike there. At Nissan, they've got racing blood through their veins as well, though too. They've never shied away from a battle as well for a bit of fun, and they've surprised everybody over the years with the technology and the cars that they can bring out. So I can attest, I've got one of them in my garage on the wraps from back in the old days. It goes absolutely flies like a Shanghai at a Dunny.
So anyway, so that's basically what's happening. So remember, Channel 31, I think we might wrap it. Anybody else got any last-minute stuff that they want to raise, whether you're at home or...
Just a quick one on Heathcote. I did see an announcement this afternoon. They've cancelled one of their 2 days on this weekend. I think they've cancelled either Saturday or Sunday. So have a look up, jump on Facebook, have a look at the Heathcote Park Raceways page, HPR, and they've cancelled one day and doing test and tune on the other one due to weather, predicted weather. So I'll try and do that now as I speak. If someone else has got some jokes.
I think if you have a look at sort of the amount of rain they've had up there and some of the photos that Lance has been putting up on the Facebook page, it's amazing they've had any sort of action up there at all. It's been a difficult thing to get up. Now, Winton, of course, is happening on the weekend. The Winton 300, only disappointingly small entry, only 13 cars for the Winton 300. Was always a big.
Saturday cancelled, Sunday's on. There you go.
Oh, okay. So Winton, if you want to head up to Winton, and as pointed out, yes, it is being live streamed. I think, and I'm not sure. Is it? Yeah, I mean. SB saying that it's on Blend. I'm not sure that it is on Blendline actually, because Winton tend to do their own stuff up there now. I think that's because that's another mob that have paid lots of money to buy a lot of equipment and push us out the door. That's why we're not doing Formula SAE this year, I believe. So anyway, but they're up there. I think it's Fuzzy Media are doing the Winton stuff. So that'll be on the probably on the Winton Facebook page, and I'm not sure where they put that up on YouTube, but there will be live streaming from both days over the weekend. There is TA2. There's the Legends are running up there as well. So there's a few the Thunder Sports, few categories up there running around at Winton over the weekend. If you want to watch that. So the important thing is that. At the moment is to remember that right now Australia needs 64 runs. We're 3 for 224 with 64 runs off 94 balls. So that's the situation. So it looks like a good performance from the Aussies. They're in control at the moment.
So a mate just sent me a question on that. Obviously, I sent you a little bit of cricket info that was. Relevant to football this afternoon, and if we won't go into that anyway as well though too, which is just our local football and cricket landscape that we can enjoy. But
as I said, we might as well announce in case because there might be someone who's interested.
Louder than what they are.
Yeah, that James Patterson, the Australian fast bowler, Victorian fast bowler,
who does have roots in another sport.
Yes, as a kid, he's a local boy from around here, from around Dandy and around the Dandy area, and he's going back to he retired from cricket earlier this year from first class and pretty much all cricket, including at the local level. He's not playing district for Dandenong anymore, but he will be playing football next year for Doveton And as I said, Melissa always found this hilarious when she moved into Doveton, that the local football team, the fearsome local football team at Doveton, is called the Doves. The Doveton Doves.
I have very strong links with the Doves, and they are a very scary football team. I've umpired them, and I've had a beer with them at 2:00 in the morning, including Aaron Davey, who I can tell you a few stories about that lovely gentleman sometimes over some private drinks again. But good luck to Pato, as he's affectionately known, and he will be a formidable opponent on the field.
If he was worried about his back playing cricket, I shudder to think what it's going to be like with him. But I mean, he's a big unit. He's a and he should still be pretty quick, pretty fit. So So anyway, so he's out of cricket, and he's going back and he's playing next year in the local competition. And of course, the big rivalry, the big sort of across town rivalry, is of course the Doveton Doves versus the Hampton Park Redbacks, and that's a bit like the old days of Port Melbourne versus Dandenong.
stay tuned for the Southern League next year, and just before Easter it usually kicks off. So
Yeah, it'll be they get huge crowds because the ground is just up the road from. They get ridiculous, and they've got a full like a huge screen. Like the facilities, and they're actually as we speak, they're sinking a lot of money. They're totally rebuilding the facilities at the local footy ground. I walked past the other day and thought, hang on, where's everything gone? And there were
being done stage by stage. I have had a hand in some of that over the last few years, and the netball courts have been resurrected, arguably from the club themselves. I put them on the wrong side of the ground. But however, there's also the tennis club is adjacent, and right next door in a big precinct there is the basketball stadium as well, though, too. So conveniently next to Umeri Creek as well, which is a great spot around the area there. So look, yeah, great club, great people, and wonderful people. The catering's absolutely amazing there as well, though, too, and you've got some strong links, and especially the Indigenous people I've had a lot to do with over the years. Are lovely people, and they welcome with open arms. Great area, and good luck to them in the next year in the Southern League up against the Brett's team, the Redbacks.
Okay, well we better head off now because remember 9:30 on Channel 31 or the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. You can watch this week's program with our special guest Eugene Arocca from Motorsport Australia. Be watching next week. Our special guest will be talking about the Come and Try days, and of course for our final live show, our final studio show at least for 2022, our special guest, gorgeous George Vidovic, the snake charmer himself, will be a special guest on the program. But I think that's all the time we have. So say goodbye to Box.
One quick bit. McLaughlin
yes.
McLaughlin showed some interest in the Daytona 24. You can look that one.
He hasn't. It's actually quite an old story. Actually, if you listen to he actually did say on Mark Fogarty's podcast on Parked Up Plus, he actually said in the interview that yes, he was planning not just to run at the Daytona 24-hour, but he's also hoping to run at Sebring and also at Petit Le Mans as well. So we should get at least 3 appearances in sports car in IMSA from Scotty McLaughlin. At this stage, probably not with the Penske Porsche team. It could be with LMP2. It could be with GT. One of those things. But right now, he does want to do more. He does want to do more GT and sports car racing. And ultimately, I think he's probably looking at perhaps joining Shane Van Gisbergen over at Le Mans at some stage as well, because that would be interesting as well. Okay, guys.
Another Aussie there at some stage now.
Yeah, so the New Zealanders are taking over the world. Okay, everybody, we'll see you next week. So thanks for joining us on Full Course Yellow, and until then, from all of us, it's as they say in the classics, it's bye for now.
Have a great Super Bowl.